What if your garden could essentially design itself? What if you planted something once, just once, and from that moment forward, the garden kept filling itself in, spreading color into new spots, filling bare patches, and getting more beautiful and more abundant every single year, completely on its own, without you lifting a finger? Welcome back to the channel, where we make gardening smarter, easier, and more beautiful for everyone. Today we are diving into 10 self-seeding perennials that will naturally design your garden for you, filling it with color, texture, and life year after year with absolutely zero extra work on your part. These are nature's gift to the busy gardener. Let's get into it. Quick pause before we get started. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now and tap the bell so you never miss a video. And if you are already part of the community and you enjoy what we do here, a quick thumbs up on this video goes such a long way in helping us reach more gardeners just like you. We genuinely appreciate every single one of you. Okay, let's talk self-seeders. Most gardeners spend every spring buying new plants, replanting bare spots, and trying to fill their beds back in after winter. It is time-consuming, it is expensive, and honestly, it never quite ends. But self-seeding perennials completely break that cycle. These are plants that drop their seeds at the end of the season, and by the following spring, those seeds have germinated into fresh new plants exactly where your garden needs them most. Naturally, freely, and beautifully. The result is a garden that looks increasingly naturalistic, lush, and effortlessly designed with every passing year. Less work for you, more beauty for everyone. Let's count them all down. Plant number 1, Black-Eyed Susan, Rudbeckia fulgida. Kicking off our list at number 1 is one of the most cheerful, sunny, and effortlessly prolific self-seeders in the entire world of perennial gardening. And that is the Black-Eyed Susan. Black-Eyed Susans produce those iconic golden yellow daisy flowers with deep chocolate brown centers that have become one of the most recognizable and beloved wildflower images in North American gardening. They bloom from midsummer through fall, a long, generous season of bright color that lights up garden borders, meadow plantings, and naturalistic beds with pure, radiating sunshine. As self-seeders, Black-Eyed Susans are extraordinarily generous. When you leave the spent flower heads on the plant through fall and winter, which also provides important food for seed-eating birds like goldfinches, they release hundreds of seeds that germinate the following spring into fresh new plants. Over just 2 or 3 seasons, a single plant becomes a sweeping, golden drift that fills entire sections of your garden with that warm, joyful color completely on its own. The key benefit of Black-Eyed Susan as a self-seeder is its speed and reliability. It is one of the fastest self-seeders on today's list, establishing strongly in its first season and beginning to spread meaningfully in its second. It also works beautifully in combination with other self-seeders like coneflower and salvia, creating naturalistic, self-sustaining plant communities that look increasingly beautiful and complex with every passing year. One caution: Black-Eyed Susan can spread enthusiastically in fertile, moist soils, so keep an eye on its spread in smaller gardens and edit out seedlings you don't want in early spring when they are still small and easy to remove. In larger beds and naturalistic plantings, however, let it roam freely. The results are absolutely spectacular. Plant number 2, coneflower, Echinacea purpurea. Number 2 is a native North American wildflower that self-seeds with beautiful reliability and has become one of the most widely grown and genuinely beloved perennials in modern gardening. And that is coneflower, or echinacea. Coneflowers produce those large, daisy-like flowers with the distinctive raised, spiky orange-brown center cones. Typically in rich, rosy purple, though modern varieties come in white, yellow, orange, coral, and red. They bloom from midsummer through early fall, and then those spiky seed heads that remain through the winter months become a critical food source for goldfinches and other seed-eating birds that pick through them on cold winter mornings. As a self-seeder, coneflower is polite, generous, and incredibly reliable. It does not spread aggressively or invasively. Instead, it places new seedlings thoughtfully around the parent plant and into nearby open soil, gradually expanding its presence in your garden in a way that looks entirely natural and intentional. Over several seasons, a single coneflower becomes a beautiful, spreading colony that blooms more abundantly with every passing year. The key benefit of coneflower as a self-seeder is its ecological generosity. Every new plant it produces is not just beautiful, it is a functioning wildlife habitat. The flowers feed pollinators from midsummer through fall. The seed heads feed birds through winter. The plant supports beneficial insects and native bees that provide natural pest control throughout your entire garden. One self-seeding coneflower becomes an expanding ecosystem of extraordinary value. The caution? If you have planted fancy hybrid coneflower varieties with unusual colors, be aware that self-seeded offspring will often revert back toward the original purple species rather than reproducing the named hybrid color reliably. If maintaining a specific color palette is important to you, deadhead your hybrid varieties and allow only the straight purple species to self-seed freely. The straight species is beautiful, tough, and perfectly reliable in every way. Plant number 3, foxglove, Digitalis purpurea. Number 3 is one of the most enchantingly beautiful self-seeders in the entire garden. A plant that creates new magic in different spots of your garden every single year. That plant is foxglove. Foxgloves produce those magnificent tall spires, reaching 4 to 6 feet, densely lined with pendulous, tubular bellflowers in purple, pink, white, cream, and apricot, each one beautifully spotted inside to guide pollinators to the nectar. They are stunning woodland edge plants that bring vertical drama and enchanted beauty to shaded and semi-shaded garden spots that most other tall perennials simply cannot fill. As a self-seeder, foxglove is wonderfully prolific and charmingly unpredictable. A single foxglove flower spike can produce up to 1 million tiny seeds, and those seeds scatter broadly around the parent plant and throughout the garden, germinating the following spring in spots you never would have thought to plant them. The result is a garden that perpetually renews itself, with foxgloves appearing in new, often surprising, and always beautiful locations season after season. The key benefit of foxglove as a self-seeder is the sense of living spontaneity it brings to the garden. Unlike rigidly planned plantings, a self-seeding foxglove garden has a wild, romantic, naturalistic quality that no amount of deliberate planting can fully replicate. Foxgloves appear in gaps between shrubs, at the base of walls, along pathways, and in shaded corners, always exactly where they look most beautiful and most at home. The caution? Foxglove is highly toxic in all its parts, so always wear gloves when handling it and be cautious in gardens where young children or curious pets have unsupervised access. Also, if you want to encourage maximum self-seeding, resist the urge to deadhead the spent spikes. Let them ripen and release their seeds naturally before cutting the stems back in late fall. Plant number 4, Aquilegia/Columbine, Aquilegia species. Number 4 is a plant that is so enthusiastic about self-seeding that experienced gardeners often joke it will grow absolutely everywhere if you let it. And they mean that as the highest possible compliment. That plant is columbine, or aquilegia. Columbines are dainty, delicate-looking spring perennials that produce some of the most intricate and architecturally fascinating flowers in the entire plant kingdom. Each flower is a multi-layered marvel of petals and spurs, dangling, swirling structures in combinations of blue and white, red and yellow, purple and cream, pink and gold, and countless other bicolor combinations that look like they were designed by an artist with an impossibly fine brush. They bloom in mid to late spring, filling that crucial early season gap when most other perennials are still getting started. As a self-seeder, columbine is absolutely legendary. It is one of the most prolific and wide-ranging self-seeders in the perennial garden, scattering its seeds generously around the parent plant and far beyond, popping up in paving cracks, between stepping stones, at the foot of hedges, and in the most charmingly unexpected locations throughout the garden. And because columbines cross-pollinate freely between different varieties, the self-seeded offspring often produce entirely new and unique color combinations that you never planted, making every new season a genuine floral surprise. The key benefit of columbine as a self-seeder is the ever-evolving, ever-surprising color variety it brings to the spring garden year after year. No two seasons are ever quite the same. New color combinations appear, new plants pop up in new spots, and the garden feels genuinely alive and dynamic rather than static and predictable. It is one of the most joyful self-seeding experiences available to any gardener. The caution: columbines are short-lived perennials that typically persist for only 3 to 5 years before declining. However, because they self-seed so reliably and prolifically, there are almost always fresh, vigorous young plants replacing older ones. So the columbine presence in your garden is self-perpetuating, as long as you allow some plants to go to seed each season. Simply leave the spent seed heads on the plant until they have fully ripened and released their seeds before cutting them back. Plant number 5, Verbena bonariensis. Number 5 is a plant that modern garden designers absolutely cannot get enough of, and once you see why, you will completely understand. That plant is Verbena bonariensis, one of the most beautiful, most versatile, and most generously self-seeding garden plants available anywhere in the world. Verbena bonariensis is a tall, airy, see-through plant that produces stiff, branching, almost leafless stems reaching 3 to 4 feet tall, topped with tight clusters of tiny, vivid, violet-purple flowers from midsummer right through to the first hard frost. The flowers are small but intensely colored. That particular shade of purple is electric and luminous, and they float above the garden on those tall, wiry stems like a purple mist, creating a magical layering effect that is unlike anything else. What makes Verbena bonariensis so extraordinarily useful in garden design is its transparency. Because the stems are mostly bare and the plant is tall and upright, you can actually see through it to the plants behind, which means you can place it in the front, middle, or back of a border and it never blocks the view of what is behind it. It simply adds a veil of purple color at whatever height it grows, a floating, shimmering layer of color that makes every planting it is part of look more complex and more beautiful. As a self-seeder, Verbena bonariensis is extraordinarily prolific in warm climates and very generous in cooler ones. It seeds itself freely throughout the garden, appearing between other plants, at the edges of paths, in gravel, and in gaps in paving, always looking completely natural and completely intentional wherever it lands. Butterflies are absolutely obsessed with the flowers, making it one of the finest butterfly plants you can grow. The caution: in warm climates, Verbena bonariensis can self-seed so prolifically that it becomes difficult to manage without regular editing of unwanted seedlings. Stay on top of removing excess plants in spring when they are small and easy to pull. In colder climates, it behaves more like a biennial, dying back in hard winters and relying entirely on self-seeding to return the following year, which it does reliably as long as you allow some plants to go to seed in fall. Plant number 6, California poppy, Eschscholzia californica. Number 6 is a plant that has been lighting up gardens and wildflower meadows with its pure, blazing color for centuries, and it is one of the most effortless and rewarding self-seeders you will ever grow. That plant is the California poppy. California poppies produce silky, four-petaled flowers in the most vivid, luminous shades of orange, gold, yellow, cream, pink, and red imaginable. The classic form is that iconic, flame orange color that seems almost too bright and too pure to be real, like someone painted it with liquid sunlight. The flowers open in sunshine and close at night and on cloudy days, and the feathery blue-green foliage is beautiful and delicate even when the plants are not in bloom. As a self-seeder, California poppy is in a league of its own for sheer reliability and ease. Once established in your garden, it will return every single year without any assistance from you whatsoever. Each plant produces long, slender seed pods that curl and split explosively when ripe, literally catapulting their seeds several feet away from the parent plant with surprising force. The result is a gradually expanding colony of poppies that naturalizes freely into gravel, rocky slopes, sunny borders, and dry garden edges. The key benefit of California poppy as a self-seeder is its extraordinary toughness and adaptability. It thrives in poor, dry, well-drained soils where almost nothing else will grow, making it one of the very best choices for naturalizing difficult, low-fertility areas of the garden that are hard to keep planted with anything else. It is drought-tolerant, heat-tolerant, and genuinely thrives on neglect. The caution? California poppy absolutely hates having its roots disturbed, so it is best to allow self-seeded plants to establish exactly where they germinate, rather than attempting to move or transplant them. If you try to transplant California poppy seedlings, they will almost always fail. Simply thin them in place to the spacing you want and let them grow where they choose to be. That is, after all, the entire philosophy of a self-seeding garden. Plant number 7, red valerian, Centranthus ruber. Number 7 is a plant that is so perfectly adapted to self-seeding in difficult, inhospitable places that it has become legendary for growing in spots where virtually nothing else will survive. That plant is red valerian, and it is one of the most charming, resilient, and spectacularly carefree self-seeders in the entire plant world. Red valerian is a bushy, glaucous-leaved perennial that produces rounded clusters of tiny, star-shaped flowers in vibrant crimson red, soft pink, or pure white from late spring through summer and often again in fall. It has a slightly wild, Mediterranean cottage garden character that feels simultaneously relaxed and deeply romantic. The kind of plant that looks as though it has always been in your garden and always will be. As a self-seeder, red valerian is absolutely extraordinary because of where it seeds itself. While most self-seeders prefer open soil, red valerian has an almost supernatural ability to germinate and thrive in cracks in walls, gaps between paving stones, rocky outcroppings, gravel paths, and the bases of old stone structures. If you have a dry stone wall, a gravel garden, a brick pathway, or a rocky slope in your yard, red valerian will find those spaces and colonize them in the most spectacularly beautiful and naturalistic way. The key benefit of red valerian is its ability to bring color and life to the hardest, driest, most inhospitable corners of the garden that resist all other planting. It is extraordinarily drought-tolerant, thrives in alkaline soils, and genuinely improves with neglect. It blooms for months at a stretch, attracts butterflies and bumblebees, and gives the garden that effortlessly romantic, slightly wild European character that is deeply appealing and almost impossible to achieve through deliberate planting alone. The caution? Red valerian can become quite large and woody over time, and older plants can become leggy and less floriferous. Cut the entire plant back hard after its first flush of bloom to encourage fresh, compact new growth and a strong second flowering. Also, keep an eye on self-seeded plants in areas where you do not want them. Remove unwanted seedlings while they are small, as older plants develop deep taproots that make them difficult to remove once established. Plant number 8, Nigella/Love in a Mist, Nigella damascena. Number 8 is one of the most whimsically beautiful and charmingly named plants in the entire garden. And it is also one of the most enthusiastic and reliable self-seeders you will ever encounter. That plant is Nigella, also known by its irresistible common name, Love in a Mist. Love in a Mist earns its poetic name from its extraordinary flower structure. Delicate, lacy, finely divided bracts surround each bloom like a green mist. And nestled inside that feathery haze sits a beautiful, intricate flower in shades of sky blue, soft lavender, rose pink, or pure white. The effect is genuinely enchanting. Each flower looks like it is floating inside its own private cloud of green filigree, giving the plant a lightness and delicacy that is absolutely unique in the garden world. After the flowers fade, Love in a Mist develops another extraordinary feature: large, decorative, papery seed pods striped in green and maroon that are just as beautiful as the flowers themselves, and are widely used in dried flower arrangements. These pods ripen through summer and eventually split to release hundreds of tiny black seeds that scatter across the surrounding soil, germinating the following spring into fresh, new plants that bloom in late spring and early summer. The key benefit of Love in a Mist as a self-seeder is the extraordinary beauty it brings to the early season garden when most other self-seeders are not yet in bloom. It fills that crucial late spring window with its delicate, cottage garden charm, creating a soft, romantic carpet of color and texture that bridges the gap between spring bulbs and summer perennials perfectly and completely on its own terms. The caution: Love in a Mist is technically an annual rather than a perennial, but because it self-seeds so reliably and returns so faithfully year after year, it functions exactly like a perennial in the garden and absolutely deserves its place on this list. To encourage maximum self-seeding, always leave some seed pods on the plant to fully ripen and split naturally before clearing the spent plants away in late summer. Plant number 9, Hollyhock, Alcea rosea. Number 9 is one of the most iconic, most recognizable, and most romantically beautiful self-seeders in the entire tradition of cottage gardening. And that is the hollyhock. If there is a plant on this entire list that most powerfully captures the soul and spirit of a self-designing, naturally evolving garden, it is the hollyhock. Hollyhocks produce those magnificent tall flower spires, rising 6, 7, sometimes 8 feet high, packed from base to tip with large, saucer-shaped blooms in every color from pure white to deepest burgundy, with rich reds, vibrant pinks, soft blushes, sunny yellows, and stunning double varieties that look like stacked silk rosettes all the way up the stem. They bloom in midsummer and create one of the most dramatic vertical statements available in the entire garden plant repertoire. As self-seeders, hollyhocks are wonderfully prolific and characteristically free-spirited. They scatter their seeds around fences, walls, garden boundaries, and open soil with cheerful generosity, and the resulting plants appear in exactly the kinds of spots that make them look their most beautiful. Leaning against a wooden fence, rising between old stone walls, emerging from a gravel path, framing a garden gate. No amount of deliberate planting could create the same effect as a hollyhock that has chosen its own position. The key benefit of hollyhock as a self-seeder is the extraordinary sense of established, timeless garden character it creates simply by being allowed to do what it naturally does. A garden with self-seeded hollyhocks rising against a fence or wall looks as though it has been lovingly tended for generations. It has a depth of character and a romantic authenticity that is genuinely impossible to fake with newly purchased transplants. The caution? Hollyhocks are susceptible to rust fungus, which creates orange-brown spots on the foliage. While this rarely kills the plant, it can look unsightly. Remove affected lower leaves as soon as you notice them, improve air circulation, and avoid overhead watering to keep the problem manageable. For self-seeding purposes, always allow at least some plants to complete their full seed cycle before cutting them back in fall. Plant number 10, borage, Borrego officinalis. And rounding out our magnificent list at number 10 is a plant that is not only one of the most generous and reliable self-seeders you will ever grow, it is also one of the most useful, most ecologically valuable, and most surprisingly beautiful. That plant is borage. Borage is a vigorous, bristly-stemmed annual herb that grows to about 2 to 3 feet tall and produces the most stunning, perfectly star-shaped flowers in a shade of vivid, electric blue that is genuinely one of the truest and most beautiful blues in the entire plant world. Those flowers droop downward in clusters from arching stems and are absolutely covered in bees from the moment they open. Borage is one of the most productive nectar plants per flower that exists, and bees are magnetically, irresistibly drawn to it. As a self-seeder, borage is in a class of its own for sheer enthusiasm and reliability. It sets seed prolifically and germinates freely throughout the garden, appearing in vegetable beds, flower borders, gravel paths, and any patch of open soil it can find. Once you grow borage in your garden, you will always have borage in your garden. It perpetuates itself season after season with absolute reliability, asking nothing of you in return except the space to grow. The key benefit of borage as a self-seeder is its extraordinary multi-purpose value. The flowers are edible, they have a mild, cool cucumber flavor, and make a beautiful garnish in salads, summer drinks, and on cakes and desserts. The flowers and leaves are a traditional companion plant in vegetable gardens, repelling tomato hornworms and attracting beneficial predatory insects that control aphids and other pests naturally. And as a bee plant, it is simply without equal in the annual and self-seeding garden world. The caution: borage grows quickly and can become quite large, potentially overwhelming smaller plants nearby if not edited periodically. Remove unwanted self-seeded plants while they are still small. They pull out easily at that stage. Also note that the leaves and stems are covered in fine, bristly hairs that can cause mild skin irritation in sensitive individuals, so wear gloves when handling large amounts of the plant. Despite these minor points, borage is one of the most rewarding, most useful, and most wildlife-friendly self-seeders you can possibly add to your garden. And there you have it, 10 extraordinary self-seeding plants that will naturally design your garden for you, filling it with color, texture, wildlife, and life, year after year, with absolutely no extra work required from you. Every single one of these plants has one thing in common. They work for you. They spread when you need them to spread. They fill gaps you did not know needed filling. They create combinations you never would have planned. They give your garden a naturalistic, effortlessly beautiful character that simply cannot be achieved any other way. If you found today's video helpful and inspiring, please give it a big thumbs up right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more gardeners who need exactly this kind of guidance. And we are so grateful for every single like and every single share. And if you are not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell right now so you never miss a single upload. We are constantly creating new content to help you build the most beautiful, most low-maintenance, and most wildlife-friendly garden possible. One smart plant choice at a time. We will see you in the very next video. Until then, let your garden